the first thing I want to do is I do want to differentiate for my viewers the difference between neo-Darwinism, its perspective, creationism, and intelligent design, because I think a lot of the malice that comes your way is because people want to define your scientific endeavors to seek the transcendence in regards to the natural world as some kind of 6-day literal creation, 6,000-year-old creationism. So, in a synopsis,
let's throw a fourth thing in there, and that is the God hypothesis. Okay. So yes. there is a theory that I've been part of developing called the theory of intelligent design, and the best way to understand it is in contrast to a particular meaning of the term evolution. Evolution can mean three things. It can mean change over time. It can mean common ancestry of all organisms. And it can mean, that an unguided, undirected process, usually conceived of as natural selection acting on random mutations, produced all the forms of life that we see, and produced also the appearance or illusion of design that we see in nature. So when we're challenging Darwinian evolution, we're challenging that third meaning, the idea that there's an unguided, undirected process that explains the appearance of design such that the appearance of design is an illusion. The neo-Darwinists say design is an illusion. It's merely an appearance. Right. We coined the term intelligent design to contrast our view with that, to say, no,
Isn't that kind of redundant?
What's that?
Intelligent design? I mean, doesn't design...
It was a necessary redundancy because the Darwinists will say, yes, there's design in nature, but it's only the appearance of design, not real design.
So that would be not design at all, though.
Well, strictly speaking, yes. They believe
I'm just trying to show their own. I'm trying to explain their own inconsistencies with it. Every time they try to speak about non-design, they use design words every time. So they can't even live by their own.
Francis Crick said the biologist must constantly keep in mind that what we're looking at was not designed, but instead evolved. Okay. Yeah. Richard Dawkins says biology is the study of complicated things that give the appearance of having been designed for a purpose. So we took them at their word and said, okay, that's your theory. Our theory is no, it's not just apparent design, it's actual design, actual intelligent design. Okay. Yeah. So that's what we're challenging. What I've done in Return to the God hypothesis, having written 2 books arguing that there is evidence of an actual designing intelligence in life of some unspecified kind, I then was asked by many of my readers, well, who do you think the designer is and what can science tell us about that question? So in the first 2 books, I didn't attempt to identify the identity of the designing intelligence, although I did indicate that I thought that the theory of intelligent design and the evidence for it had theistic implications. It was consistent with and friendly to theism. But in the third book, Return to the God hypothesis, I go beyond just the theory of intelligent design and the evidence for it to address that larger metaphysical or worldview question. Who is the designing? If there's evidence of design in nature, what can we say about the nature of that designing intelligence? That may go beyond the theory of intelligent design, but it's an obvious line of inquiry to pursue beyond it. And so I've investigated the metaphysical or worldview implications, and I do that by bringing in not just evidence from biology, but evidence from cosmology and physics to show that we have evidence of design from the very beginning of the universe. This could not be, the design we see in life in the universe could not be wholly explained by, for example, a space alien within the cosmos. No being within the cosmos could explain the origin of the universe itself or the origin of the fine-tuning of the universe that we have from the very beginning of the universe upon which its later origin would depend. That would be getting the cause after the effect. And that's so anyway, I argue for a theistic designer in the third book. Now, the relationship between intelligent design and creationism is as follows. Many creationists are proponents of intelligent design because all creationists think that a designing intelligence played a role in the history of life. But creationism makes other claims that the theory of intelligent design doesn't make, in particular claims about the age of the earth and the nature of the Genesis stays.
Yeah.
Creation. So therefore, you could say that creationism is a deduction or an interpretation based on scriptural data, whereas the theory of intelligent design is an inference from biological and physical evidence. The one is more of a theological research program. The other is a scientific research program insofar as it's based on scientific evidence and using standard methods of scientific reasoning. Right. Also, there are ID proponents, intelligent design proponents, who are also young Earth creationists, but I would say most proponents of intelligent design accept the great antiquity of the universe and of our planet, and therefore would not be young Earth proponents, but rather would accept the old Earth idea. That's not inherent to the theory of intelligent design, because it's an age neutral theory, because it's addressing a different question. Is the design evidence of design we see in nature real or merely apparent? We fall on the side of reality.
Well, and you guys have been very careful of not utilizing the Bible as a reference point, even though I'm sure you could find scriptural phrases and lines and concepts that are in line with what you've concluded, because we believe the Bible is God's revelation. So there must, and Hugh Ross does that a lot. He'll make some scientific proclamation. And he'll say, it says that in Psalms. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So he's interesting in that regard. But I like, honestly, that you guys have avoided that, not because you don't think there's a consistency there, but just to sort of neutralize a potential weapon against you.
Well, what Hugh's doing is a form of scientific apologetics, and I think that's a very legitimate enterprise. And in a way, in my last book, I'm doing a bit of that. But that doesn't mean you can't also develop intelligent design as a scientific research program.
Yes.
Which we're doing actively at Discovery Institute, not only showing that data we already have is best explained by invoking the activity of a creative intelligence, but also that if you posit a creative intelligence, that leads to certain empirical expectations about how life, for example, should have been put together, that you can go and investigate. And the postulation of a designing intelligence having acted in the history of life actually can help us make discoveries, because we would anticipate certain things in life that the materialists would not anticipate. For example, we were the first to predict that the junk DNA would end up not being junk, but rather importantly functional. And that was a direct consequence of viewing life as a design system, whereas the Darwinists, when they encountered the non-coding regions of the DNA, said, oh, that must be the leftovers of the trial and error process of natural selection. That's the random stuff, that the flopsome and gypsum that natural selection discarded. And we said, well, no, if life was designed, we know that there are mutations, but we wouldn't expect that the signal would be dwarfed by the noise. So we predicted that those sections of the DNA that were not coding for proteins would be not junk, but importantly functional. And that's now been confirmed by from some very a wide range of scientific studies. So this is one example among many of ID making different predictions. Yeah. And guiding, therefore, research in a different direction, and that research has proven to be very fruitful. So that's amazing. So scientific apologetics is great, but so is scientific research based on a different premise, and that's what we're mainly doing at Discovery. Although I'm not but we're also interested in these bigger philosophical questions. So who is the designer? That's fair game. Let's answer it. We don't need to all stay in little boxes all the time. This is the endeavor of the demarcationists who want to define the outcome, who want to settle the outcome of a debate by defining terms. You're a pseudoscientist, so therefore, or if you're invoking God, well, therefore that's religion and not science. Well, why can't it be both? Why can't it be science pointing to a religious conclusion? That's what the early founders of modern science thought they were doing. We're getting back to that. That's why I call it. Because the presuppositional worldview of the materialist is there is nothing else to discover. So we have to maintain this parameter to make it authentic. Because that's arbitrary. You chose that. That nobody else has to agree with your perspective. Not only that, it's lacking science. Listen, you're not only a good comedian, you're a good philosopher of science. That's exactly that is the key issue, and how the mischief is done. That's how people that's how people are kept from seeing what
Yeah.
the evidence is pointing to.